Here we go.
Welcome to the Disability Advisory Committee for the City of Charlestown. Today is Monday, November the 10th, 2025. Time is 5 p.m. We are being live streamed by Under Production Multimedia. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right. Let the record show that all committee members are present with the exception of our new member, Cindy McNeil. We have an agenda that's been provided by Secretary Liz Hardy. I need a motion to approve.
A motion to approve.
All right, Cindy Perkins, and second.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion approved.
One abstention. I wasn't here for that meeting.
Okay. All right, we have our standing business, which includes the minutes from Monday, September 8th, 2025. I need a motion to approve. All right, second.
I'll second.
All right, motion approved. All right, and before we talk about old business,
Call for vote.
oh, I'm sorry. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved.
Passing around the notes, the signature page.
Yes. All right, so at this time, I'm going to open the floor if we have any public comments. Nothing? Okay. All right, then we will move on to old business. Okay. Sorry about that. All right, so. All right, I think we had our events, the trailer treat, went smoothly. We had a record-breaking crowd, I do believe. We had community days on September 19th and 20th. That was a pretty great event. Anybody have any comments or anything they want to add? Any suggestions for either event? No? No? All right. We also talked about breakfast with the mayor. We had decided to table that until after the first of the year, maybe towards Easter. We would revisit that that suggestion that we had brought up last meeting. For our new business, we've got a few things we're going to go over, but first, Mayor Teresa Hodges is going to come up and talk about the review of mission and procedures.
Hello, board. I also have an update about the A&E, so when you get to the point in the agenda where you want to hear that update about the accessibility of the basement, just let me know. I've got some cost estimates to run through with you and a schematic to show you, so.
We okay with that? We'll just go right into that.
Okay, so I'll do that first and then we'll go over the procedure. So you have in front of you a letter from Hart's Surveying and Engineering. I have a schematic here that you're welcome to it's kind of big, I'm sorry. It's kind of the way it works. If you want to share it and then we can pass it around, you can see what we're talking about, I'll describe what's on it. The letter summarizes what's on the schematic. So we've been looking at how we create full accessibility into the basement, primarily because we use the basement as an emergency storm shelter and open it to the public. Right now, we have a lift assist that can be used to transport people down the stairs. That's not ideal. We want to be able to have it fully accessible. We discussed at one point installing a lift, and And unfortunately, due to the design of the sanctuary on top of where the basement is, there is no safe place to put a lift that would get people down into the basement. The only option would be the boiler room, and we really don't want people landing in the boiler room. So I approached Hart's Surveying to have them do a rough schematic and cost estimate of how we could create accessible access from the exterior doorway that's on Water Street. Since the basement is only used for storm shelter, this isn't something we use, the upstairs floor for rentals is already compliant and accessible. But we needed something to, when we opened it for storms, for people to be able to get in safely as well. So what I recommended was finding a way to create a ramp to that basement door on Water Street. Due to the short distance between the door and Water Street, this isn't something that can go straight in. The grade would be too steep, and we're not creating an adventure trail here. So what we looked at was a complete remodel of that entryway. What you see on the schematic under the current conditions, if you look at the entryway, it has 2 retaining walls and stairs that go down into sort of the pit that is the door. The recommendation is to pull the stairs completely out and pull out both retaining walls, and then come out from the south side of it, build an L-shaped retention wall that then goes down the length of the sidewalk to Harrison Street, and then build another retention wall opposite that, so that the entryway, instead of being straight in, would come down the side from Harrison and then in. This also requires some additional drainage work because water ponds at the bottom of that little pit, and so it would require a sump pump to get the water out over the top. And it would require guardrails because you're creating basically 2 retention walls. What this does though is it creates full accessibility through that doorway so that when we do open the basement for storm shelter, everybody can get in. What you see is a letter from Hart's. What they did was they did this design schematic. This would be used for bid purposes. And then they reached out to Cutter Construction to develop a preliminary cost estimate. Due to the require the removal of existing sidewalk, replacement of that sidewalk, retention walls, the sump, all of that. It's shown to be between $170,000 to $180,000, an additional $10,000 in contingency. And it's because it exceeds the $50,000 threshold, it would have to be put out for public sealed bid when we get to the point where we can do that. I will tell you as a mayor, this is incredibly frustrating because we are facing significant budget cuts, and this is something I'm committed to doing. We're going to be exhausting any effort we can to find the money, but as you can see, this is an incredibly expensive project. We will continue to open the storm shelter because I believe that in the interest of public safety, it's better to have some shelter available rather than none. And since we do have the lift assist device there, when we open that storm shelter, we notify our police and fire department as well. So if there is an individual who needs assistance getting down the stairs, we will get them down the stairs. In the interim, we will continue to find and secure the funding we need to get this done. I will be presenting this as well to the city council as a memo so that they can see what is a goal for us to save towards, to find ways to allocate to make this happen. But that's our update on the most logical way to get accessibility into the basement of the A&E Center for safety. And I welcome your feedback on that at any time. So.
That was a quick time getting it turned around for an estimate though.
Harold does a good job with getting it, and I told him I wanted it specifically for this meeting, so he did that for this meeting. I want to thank the board members who provided feedback to the 2 projects that I sent out. I sent the plan for the commons development and got some good feedback, and the design team was able to incorporate that feedback immediately. So when that project begins, they're supposed to break ground in January on that project. They are incorporating the elements that were recommended. Specifically, they will be extending the paved portion at the front of the stage so that people can access the kind of dance floor areas we're calling it, the pit, the mosh pit, whatever you want to call it, right there in front of the stage, so they would access that without having to go across the grass to do so. It'll be a hard pan surface for everybody to access that space. We are incorporating benches that have backs and rails. Handrails was one of the recommendations. At some point in the future, as we build out and install bathrooms, they will be accessible bathrooms, single use, with adult-sized changing tables in them, as well as the water bottle filling station. So they're able to incorporate all those things, but the most immediately and beneficially, the builder of this project is making that initial change on the accessibility for the dance pit at no additional charge. So they were very receptive to that feedback, and I thank you for that. The other project is the expansion of, or the master plan for the family activities park. And while we are not moving forward with all of those at once, because that would be multi-millions of dollars that we do not have, they were grateful for the feedback and incorporated, I don't know if you saw the presentation that was made to the redevelopment commission, but they incorporated that and specifically addressed the ADA compliant recommendations that they had received from this board into that design. So as we move forward with various phases of that, those features will be considered. The first phase is going to be the installation of the basketball court and pickleball court, and those of course will be accessible features. So thank you for your feedback on that. What I have for you tonight is a couple, or just some additional documents that I thought would help with understanding and reviewing. We've had some change in membership. You're still a relatively new board, having only been appointed in 2023. We've had some new members since then. There's been some flexibility with the board. So I wanted to go over some of this. I think it's good to do this once a year, especially towards the end of the year as you move into the next year. So the first document I have for you is just the purpose of the Disability Advisory Committee. It was created by Mayoral Executive Order 2023-01 with the purpose to identify opportunities within the city to expand access to locations and programming for individuals who have disabilities. We operate under the assumption and knowledge that making our programs and our spaces accessible means that they're available for everyone. Because when they're accessible, there's no one held back. And that's our goal. The committee consists of 7 members appointed by the mayor. Membership should prioritize people who live with disabilities as follows. We always want to have at least 3 members on the board who live with a disability themselves. 2 members who are guardians of a minor who lives with a disability. 1 member who is a representative of a disability service provider, and 1 member who is also an adult advocate. Effort is made to make sure that all members reside within the municipal limits of the city of Charlestown, or that they have children who attend, or they have an employment relationship with Charlestown schools. However, if it becomes difficult to find a member who meets those criteria and is willing to serve, we are also willing to accept members who meet those criteria who live in the township, because arguably they use the city of Charlestown for many services. When you accept an appointment, you're agreeing to attend meetings and contribute to the mission of the committee. Members who miss 3 consecutive meetings may be treated as if they have resigned with the discretion of appointing authority. That's in there as an official. However, I also recognize that, people have lives and children and things go on. So as long as we understand why a person is out and we know they're still committed to the overall mission of the organization, this isn't something we're going to penalize people for. The DAC is an unfunded voluntary advisory committee. I'm grateful for your service on a personal note. And we are required to operate under the, as governed by the Indiana Open Door Law. So by executive order, I ask that you meet at least 4 times a year. You can meet more often than that should you decide. We just have to follow the rules of posting those meetings, which includes a 48-hour business day notification of every meeting that you attend. Every year you should elect 3 positions: a chairperson, a vice chairperson, and a secretary. The chairperson has the responsibility of leading the meetings. However, any board member can call a meeting at any time, just with notice to the chair. If you decide there's something that you need to meet, you can notify the chair, and the chair can organize a meeting. The vice chairperson who leads the meetings in the absence of the chairperson, and the secretary who supplies the minutes and agenda for the meetings each calendar year. So I recommend that you do that at their last meeting of every year, so that way you know going into the next year who that's going to be. I also gave you a sample of the meetings. The meetings follow a very simplified Robert's Rules of Order, which I realize if you haven't had the opportunity to sit on the board, sometimes that is new information for people. So what I did was I took your agenda and I just put in a kind of a rough example of what that looks like. I want to encourage the members to assist the chair in the making of and seconding of motions and moving through items of business. But for the sake of the record keeper and the secretary, who may or may not be at a meeting, if the secretary has to miss a meeting, they may have to watch the meeting. it's good to call out what happens because it makes it easier to take minutes. That's why I had the example set where someone makes a motion, the chair announces who makes that motion by name, who makes the second by name, and then calls out the results of that vote, that it's approved unanimously, or that it's approved with one abstention, or whatever the results may be. It helps the person who's taking the minutes, and it helps those who are watching live and listening to the meeting, because it adds that in the closed captioning, which is a benefit. So I just have an example of what the meetings would look like with that, and I have a simplified Robert's Rules of Order for public meeting at the bottom. For the most part, with our meetings, the only issue, we don't have to get into the weeds with the Robert's Rules of Order, this is not a huge parliamentary group. But just the simple making of a motion, seconding a motion, any amendments to motions that might happen, tabling an item, which you've had experience doing. If anybody needs to call a recess, realizing that sometimes an emergency might happen, the meeting might need to be briefly recessed and called back to order. There's a procedure for that. And of course, adjournment, because we don't want to be here forever every night. So, with that said, I'm happy to answer any questions, but I wanted to make sure I was providing some organizing documents for you. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Just leave it, I'll get it.
Okay, I'll be pretty brief. Just wanted to let you guys know that we now here in Charlestown have a special need parent support group, calling it Beyond the Village. We meet once a month at the Arts and Enrichment Center here in Charlestown. The next meeting happens to be this week at 5 p.m. We don't always have a topic to discuss. I mean, a lot of times it's free discussion. However, this week, just to give us some structure, the topic will be the importance of self-care and stress management. And I do want to be transparent in letting everyone know that this group was formed pretty much what it comprised of parents, caregivers that do have kids or individuals with special needs. However, we would not limit it to only us. We'd love for anyone to come. Kids are welcome to attend as well. So that's kind of the basics. It will be once a month. I have shared out in several different places a flyer that I've been creating each month. So be on the lookout for that. Anything else I need to add to that? That's about it. So hopefully we can get some new members. I think it's been a very great resource for people that don't always know what their resources are out there. It's a great way to connect with people in your community that have similar threads of how they manage life as a special needs caregiver. So I'd love for anyone to attend.
What day did you say that one?
It's this week on Wednesday, yep, at 5.
Andy Center.
Is it always on the first Wednesday of the month, or?
I think we have it scheduled for November and December that way. I mean, I'm willing to, if anyone wants to change that around. We haven't scheduled really into the next year yet at the A&E Center, but I plan to. That's probably what our December meeting will look like, is seeing how things work for other people and if time. It's hard to accommodate everyone's schedules, but we certainly try.
Thank you for putting that
Yeah,
together.
sure.
It's been an amazing resource.
Yeah, I think it's a great way to everyone, for everyone just even to connect, we may not, like I said, we don't always have a topic to discuss. It doesn't always have to be a topic. I would like to know, into next year, my plan is to add some speakers. I have quite a few people that are willing to come speak on different topics. Several of them I actually personally know, but I want to make sure that we have a decent sized group, for it to be worth their while. But I think it's a great thing. I don't think we really have enough support as special needs caregivers. Definitely, we don't. A lot of us are learning as we go. So I hope to be, an advocate and help others that may have younger children, or hopefully even to learn from people that, have been through the ropes a little more than I have. So, yeah.
I know we're just meeting, but I'm a licensed clinical social worker. Part of my job is to provide supports and resources and tools. So if you need anything, need support, need a speaker, please let me know. I'd be happy to help. if I can.
Sure, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, holiday events. We have, the reindeer event coming up. Be here in a blink. But before that, we have our Light Up Charlestown, event. That will be on the day after Thanksgiving. We light up at 6? Did you just say 6, 7? 6 o'clock. Local celebrity and my nephew Harrison Adams will be the lighter up, I don't know what you want to call him, but he will be lighting us up that night. I'm excited for that. If you guys can attend. Parking will be for handicap at the same places that the last few events have been. We have the H&R Block space. We need to find a name for that space, that parking lot, don't we? We do. Yeah. But we have that, and then down in the, by the ball park, or, sorry, the basketball court, I shall say, we have, that's also marked off as handicap parking for the event. And then, I think that's some great spaces. We've got nice walking paths to get from both parking lots. So both of those events will be here before we know it. And then, of course, all of our stuff at the family activities park. I know last year we gave away reindeer food as, from the committee. I think it's a good idea that we don't do that this year because the kids were a little confused on why they couldn't feed it to the reindeer because it was full of glitter. And so we tried to be at the exit, but where it was just there's so many people for that event, everybody is just everywhere. We figured out that this year that would probably be just best. We'll just skip the reindeer food and maybe figure something out differently for that. But yeah. Oh, and then I do want to say one note. The city got us bubbles for the trailer tree, and I cannot even begin to tell you how many bubbles we passed out, and they rocked it. They bought bubbles of every size. People were like, "Are you selling those?" Nope. Here you go. We handed. I guarantee we handed out over 2,000 things of bubbles. So I want to say thank you to Treva and to Carrie and all the girls that made sure that we had that box of bubbles. And our member that couldn't be with us tonight, Cindy McNeil, she came and helped me hand those out, and it was a really great event. We had a good time. So does anybody have anything else they want to add about any of the holiday events?
Do we have a date for the reindeer?
It is the 22nd of December, I believe. It's, yeah.
6 p.m.
Yeah. I believe it's following kind of the same format as last year. They'll have a couple, 2 or 3 food trucks are usually there in the grassy area, and the concession is open. Bathrooms and all the stuff, everything's open down there that night. Yeah. Anything else? Any additional items that anyone has, anything?
I was gonna ask, I know parking last year was a little bit of a issue, although we also had all that construction. Is there any different changes happening this year? No? Okay.
Are you talking about on the square for, yes, so, typically, Live Spring is closed at that time, and we usually give them an insurance rider that allows for us to have parking there. We usually do not block off handicap parking except for light of night down in Greenway Park and the reindeer event, just because there are handicap spots marked on the square, and we will not be restricting parking against, on the square. We've talked to the train drivers, we've trained the train drivers, how to navigate that carefully. There might be one-way traffic, but the parking will not be limited. People will be, and they won't start construction on the Commons project until January, so that should not be an issue.
Thank you. Okay. All right. For our next meeting, is everyone okay to meet Monday, December the 8th? Did I have that date right? 5 o'clock? At that time, we will have our election of officers for 2026. We will be having one of our members will be leaving, and so we will be on the active hunt for a new member. So, like Mayor Treva talked about, a little bit about what we do and what our mission is, and so if anyone is interested in joining our group, we are looking for a new member. Does anyone have anything to add before we adjourn?
So it's December 8th, the next meeting? Okay.
Monday, December 8th, 5 o'clock. Okay. I need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Christina, and a second.
A second.
Cindy Perkins is my second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved. Meeting is adjourned at 5:27 PM.